guys, it's Steph here. In this video, I'm just going to be planting a lot of tulips. I have over 1,000 and it's getting really cold the next week. I'm worried that the ground is going to start to freeze. My goal is to plant them all today. It is so cold today, about 32 degrees, and I just keep hoping that the sun will come out. Actually starting to peek out a little bit. Crossing my fingers. Anyway, so there are a few tips when planting your tulips, and then there are some expectations. Tulips and daffodils are a little bit different. I actually did a video recently planting my daffodils and I left out a few things that I thought were important, so I'm just gonna add them in this video. This is the area where I am just gonna have tons of tulips. I'm so excited. I'm gonna show you what this looked like about a month ago. It was a hot mess. I worked really hard and I got all of the weeds out good enough, and then if spring, if I need to tackle some more of the weeds, I'll get after it. Right over there is my cutting garden. I'm gonna have some beautiful spring blooms, some seeds that I threw directly in the ground come spring. So when I have all of these tulips, some larkspur, some snapdragons, and some poppies and daffodils over there with all these tulips, I think it's gonna be so pretty. This area has just been forgotten for the past 6 years. I finally got to it this year. I'm gonna keep this area just kind of clean, kind of calm, settled. Not gonna have a lot of growth here because these apple trees are so pretty and I just kind of want them to be the focal point. And especially since I have all these flowers in my cutting garden, I think this will just be a place of rest. All right, now that I gave you an overview of my plan over here, let's get my tulip bulbs out here. I'm just gonna mix them all together. I have actually been dreading planting this many. I'm just feeling really tired by the end of the season. I buy all of these bulbs when I'm not exhausted, but I know myself, it's just my personality. It's gonna be worth it in spring. But every single night, I've been thinking about it and thinking about it. So I'm finally doing it today. I'm gonna use the Martha Stewart method. I learned this a while ago. She says if you wanna create a really natural look, just toss them in a bag and throw them all over the place. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and trek back to the meadow. For my tulip bulbs, I'm gonna plant them 8 inches deep. You get nice tall blooms that way. Secondly, you wanna make sure that you plant them where the soil drains really well. Otherwise, they can go to mush and rot. So that's a really important thing. So with the tulips, they don't naturalize as well as daffodils. Daffodils multiply rapidly. So in the second year to third year, you're gonna have double the amount of blooms you did the first year. By the fourth year, it is recommended to lift up your daffodils and divide them just because there's too much competition. But with tulips, they seem to decrease in their bloom time after the first year. A lot of times people treat them as annuals for that reason. I'm going to leave these in here for 2 to 3 years to see what happens, but definitely by the third year I'm going to have to probably take all of them out. If you've ever lifted up a tulip after 2 to 3 years, especially after 5 years, you can look under and they just have massive clusters of bulbs all together, and so no wonder they're not blooming. There's just too much competition. There's not enough nutrients getting to one bulb, and so that's why you kind of have to replace them. I'm gonna start tossing these. I'm gonna get my drill bit and my auger. So auger is the absolute game changer. I know it's pretty common knowledge at this point, but it makes it so much easier. I think it's finally go time. spreading these out, it felt like an Easter egg hunt. It's right about now that I wish I had asked a million people and bribed them to come help me. But I am alone. I can do this, right? I just went and bought this Milwaukee M18 power drill. I needed something a little bit more heavy duty. This was not cutting it. It was burning out. It's not powerful enough, especially in that soil where I have more rocks. I can already tell this is more heavy duty. It's gonna make it way easier. So I'd highly recommend getting this one if you're gonna be serious about your tulip planting every single year. I did wait a couple days, but I've got all these tulips in the ground and it absolutely sucked. I didn't get video of me covering up the holes. I was far too exhausted and tired at that point, and it was so rainy outside that I didn't want to video in it. By the end, I was literally just covering it up the best I could with my boo. I got a rake, anything I could do to muster enough energy to get this finished. The rocks were so massive in some of those areas that I'd have to dig one hole maybe 3 different times just to work through that soil. And it was an absolute downpour. So by the end of it, I was actually quite nauseous. I thought maybe I was gonna throw up, getting super dizzy, but I did it. And that whole rest of the day, I was on a high. There are a few last things I'm doing in this video that I forgot to mention in the beginning. I'm gonna be planting blue forget-me-nots. So I have about 40 of those little tiny plants that I'm gonna be putting in the ground. Then I'm gonna plant some pagoda bulbs. Right here, you can see the cute little blue flowers. You can see that these have quite a fibrous root system, very hairy. So I'm just gonna plant them like that. I'm really excited about those pagoda bulbs because they naturalize, so I'm just going to leave them in the ground. I'm not going to dig them up over time, and they'll spread, and they're going to provide a nice pop of yellow with my pinks and my purples and my whites, and then definitely those blue forget-me-nots. I love the blue and the yellow. The blue forget-me-nots are kind of invasive, so I wanted an area where they could really take off. This is the only spot I could think of that they wouldn't just be absolutely annoying, and they're going to be perfect right here. They are a biennial, so they die off every other year. They do like the cooler temperature. Out late spring to early summer. They actually look really beautiful with bleeding hearts, but I absolutely love them with tulips. They are the best companion plants. This just felt like one of those projects that went on and on. Just when I thought I was done, I had one more thing to do, one more thing, so I'm finally finished. Do you guys ever feel like that with some of your projects? Totally underestimate the work? That was me this time. Before I end this video, there are just a few last tips. Tulips need temperatures of about 55 to 50 degrees or lower for a long period of time. So if you live in a zone 8, you're definitely going to want to pre-chill your tulips or buy some pre-chilled ones. Tulips also like a lot of phosphorus, and I'm kind of lucky. I don't have to worry about that here because our native soil is limestone, which is high in phosphorus. So I'm not going to add bold tone fertilizer. If you don't have a lot of phosphorus, I'd recommend putting that in each hole. We had a really dry winter, and so the tulips weren't getting a lot of moisture, and if that happens, they can kind of be stunted. So the minute my tulips, depending on what the winter is like, if the soil is nice and moist, I'm not going to worry about it. But if it's dry, the minute they start popping out, I'm going to make sure I water them so I can get those nice tall blooms. I know there's not a lot to show right now, but it's going to be absolutely beautiful in spring. The last thing I'm going to have to do is in spring when they start to pop out, I have this homemade mixture of eggs, water, milk, and cayenne pepper that I put in my big backpack sprayer, and I will have to spray diligently maybe every 3 to 5 days depending on if it rains or not to keep the deer away from all of my tulips. It was really effective this spring. Anyways, thanks for stopping by. If you have any questions, comment down below. Have a great day gardening, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.